confronted by my future grandchild saying, "Why didn't you do something?" All eyes were on King Charles, but no one expected what came next as he turned to Princess Charlotte. With a voice full of raw emotion, the king read a heartfelt message to his granddaughter. And then Queen Camilla, usually composed, was left speechless. This unexpected moment exposed a side of Charles few have ever seen. But what did he say that carried so much weight? And why did it strike Camilla differently? Join us. We uncover the reason why Camilla's reaction says more than words ever could. A loving grandfather. Lately, nothing seems to make King Charles happier than spending time with his grandchildren. The joy they bring to him is easy to see. People who work closely with him have noticed a clear change in how his schedule is arranged. More often, time is made for visits from Prince William and Princess Kate's children, George, Charlotte, and Louis. There is also growing hope that Prince Harry's children, Archie and Lilibet, might be able to visit in the future. Everything seems to be moving in a direction that welcomes the younger family members more than before. At Windsor Castle, even the surroundings have started to change. A room that used to be used for serious and formal meetings is no longer the same. That space has now been completely transformed into a cozy and inviting place made just for children. Books for kids now line the shelves where old history books once stood. In one corner, art supplies sit on easels, ready for when inspiration strikes. Crayons, paints, and brushes are neatly arranged, waiting to be used. It's a place full of warmth and comfort, designed carefully with young visitors in mind. This change in the physical space of the castle shows a change in the king's personal focus. People who work closely with him say that photographs of all 5 grandchildren are proudly displayed in his private study. These pictures are not hidden in albums or tucked away in drawers. They are placed exactly where he can see them every day, reminding him constantly of the bond he shares with them. Even when he is busy with royal duties, he finds time to look over their drawings, small notes, and school projects. These personal gifts are never ignored. The bond between King Charles and his grandchildren is very different from the sometimes strained ties he has had with their parents. With the grandchildren, everything is simpler. There are no heavy expectations or complex emotions from the past. He is able to just be their grandfather. Among the children, Princess Charlotte has formed a particularly strong connection with him. They share many interests, especially when it comes to art and nature. That shared passion has helped them grow closer in a very natural way. During family visits, they can often be seen talking together about different types of flowers or birds. Sometimes they spend time discussing how to mix colors for watercolor paintings. These small but meaningful activities give them moments they both enjoy deeply. Queen Camilla has watched these growing relationships closely. While she supports strong family ties, people close to the royal household say that she has some concerns. She worries that Charles's deep attention toward the grandchildren might take time and focus away from important royal responsibilities. The way King Charles interacts with the children is very warm and relaxed. It brings him a sense of freedom he doesn't usually enjoy in his role as king. In contrast, Queen Camilla keeps things more formal and respectful. She is always polite and kind to the children, but her style is clearly different. We have to put nature back at the center of everything we do. This difference in how they relate to the grandchildren has been noticed. While Camilla continues to keep proper family ties, her approach doesn't have the same ease or natural closeness that Charles displays. These differences have gradually created tension within the royal household. As King Charles keeps choosing to spend more time with his grandchildren, Camilla's concerns about staying focused on royal duties have grown stronger. Those around them have started to see signs that this quiet struggle could lead to more serious disagreements later on. Still, Charles continues to build new traditions that are just between him and his grandchildren. He often chooses storybooks that carry moral values to read with them. When the family spends holidays at Balmoral, he takes the children on early morning walks through the woods. During these walks, he points out birds, plants, and small animals. He talks to them about protecting nature, something he has cared about for many years. He hopes they will grow to love it as much as he does. Even in the palace kitchen, small changes have been made. The staff now keeps special snacks ready, just in case the grandchildren stop by. Surprisingly, King Charles sometimes arranges these treats himself. In the past, some tasks would have been handled by a servant, but now he takes pleasure in doing it personally. One recent family event showed this new side of him clearly. During a small celebration, King Charles spent nearly an hour helping young Prince Louis build a wooden block tower. Louis kept changing the design, and each time the king helped without showing frustration. When an aide came in to remind him of an upcoming meeting, he calmly waved them off and stayed with his grandson, fully focused on the play. Each grandchild also receives special letters from him on birthdays or important days. These letters are not typed or written by assistants. King Charles writes them by hand, adding personal messages about what each child has done recently or what they are interested in. These small details show how deeply he cares and how closely he follows their lives, even when he is very busy. His love for his grandchildren is strong and deeply felt. As he continues to share time and make memories with them, the bonds grow stronger, shaping a softer and more personal chapter in his life. Grandpa's favorite Princess Charlotte had slowly begun to stand out in the royal family. With each new public appearance, she impressed more people with how calm and confident she seemed. The public noticed how she paid attention to everything around her, and how she followed the royal rules without being told. She also seemed to take care of her younger brother, Prince Louis, often watching over him gently and making sure he behaved. This kind and protective behavior made people admire her even more. It also made King Charles feel especially proud of her. Inside the palace, some people began to talk about how the king looked at Charlotte differently. He seemed to think she had something rare, something that stood out. He often noticed that she carried herself with the same elegance as her mother, Princess Kate. She also had her father, William's strong sense of duty. But more than that, she had her own spark, a kind of independence and spirit that reminded people of Princess Diana, her late grandmother. This mix of qualities made the king feel even closer to Charlotte. Charlotte, even though still very young, showed a deep interest in the past. She often wanted to learn about royal history. She asked about past kings and queens, and she seemed curious about how everything worked in the royal world. The king encouraged her curiosity warmly and regularly. He told her stories about important events in history and shared little details that weren't found in books. He explained the meaning behind royal traditions and described why certain things were done in certain ways. These talks became a special part of their time together. Queen Camilla watched this growing bond between her husband and Charlotte with mixed emotions. She supported the idea of family closeness and understood how important these connections were. But sometimes, deep down, she felt slightly uneasy. Comparisons to Princess Diana always made her feel uncomfortable, especially when those comparisons involved Diana's grandchildren. Still, she didn't let those feelings get in the way and continued to support the family in her own way. As Princess Charlotte's birthday came closer, something unexpected happened. King Charles gave orders for his schedule to be cleared for the day. This was highly unusual. Normally, the royal calendar was packed and difficult to change, but the king didn't give a long explanation. He only said that some moments were more important than duty. Longtime palace staff members were surprised by this and discreetly spoke among themselves. It was clear that this young princess held a special place in the king's heart. People had already begun to talk about how Charlotte was starting to look more and more like her mother. Some even said she shared certain features with Diana. These observations were not missed by King Charles. As her birthday approached, He spent more time in private meetings. He often called in his most trusted advisors. These meetings didn't last long and would suddenly end when someone else walked into the room. This added a sense of mystery throughout the palace, and many began to wonder what the king might be planning. Not long before her birthday, Charlotte was allowed to attend a state dinner for a short time. She didn't stay long, but in that short appearance, she made a strong impression. She moved through the formal room as if she had done it many times before. She knew how to greet the guests, how to behave, and how to show proper respect. Foreign leaders noticed this and were really impressed. The king noticed it too. He felt proud of how naturally she handled the event. He believed that such behavior would be important for the future of the royal family. King Charles had also taken a strong interest in her education. He asked for regular updates about her school progress. He even suggested extra materials for her to study, especially books about British history and how the government works. He believed that these topics would help her in her future role. He wanted her to grow up with a clear understanding of the country she might one day help represent. Her natural behavior, strong curiosity, and growing bond with her grandfather made her journey within the palace one to watch closely. However, not everyone fully agreed with the king's approach. Prince William and Princess Kate had their own way of raising their children. They preferred a more balanced and less pressured way of teaching. Sometimes the king's extra involvement created tension, but he tried hard not to show any favoritism. He loved all his grandchildren and tried to treat them fairly. Yet people inside the palace noticed small differences. Charlotte, even though still a child, had already become someone special in the royal family. When King Charles talked to Prince George, the focus was usually on leadership and responsibility. He spoke to George about the future and what it would mean to take on the crown. But with Charlotte, the conversations were different. He talked to her more about creativity and feelings. He seemed to want her to understand people and situations on a deeper level. This thoughtful way of guiding her showed how much he believed in her potential. Slowly, day by day, she was stepping into her role with steady grace and strength, but someone had their reservations. Camilla's fear of being sidelined. Queen Camilla had always managed to stay calm even during the most difficult times. But this time, something inside her changed. It happened one afternoon when she entered King Charles' study. She had only meant to leave a note on his desk, but her eyes caught sight of a document left out in the open. It was marked in clear, bold handwriting. For Charlotte, my wishes and hopes, that one title shook her deeply. She didn't open the document. She didn't know what it said, but the fact that it had been hidden from her filled her with sudden fear. She walked out of the study slowly, closing the door behind her. Her thoughts began to race. King Charles had never kept important family matters from her before. This strange new secrecy troubled her more than she wanted to admit. Feeling hurt, she picked up the phone and called her sister. Her voice was tense as she spoke about how different Charles had become. She mentioned how it felt like something important was happening behind her back. She didn't have any details, but her instincts told her that she was being pushed aside. The days that followed only made her feel worse. One morning, as she passed by a half-open door, she overheard Charles speaking with his private secretary. They were calmly discussing certain arrangements about the future of William and Kate's children. Their voices dropped when she stepped into the room, and they quickly changed the subject. The way they did it felt unnatural. It was obvious they had been speaking about something serious, something they didn't want her to know. Later, she tried to bring up Charlotte's upcoming birthday with Charles. She asked simple questions, hoping to get some hint of what was going on. But instead of the usual thoughtful answers, he gave short and vague replies. He didn't look her in the eyes. That's when her worry turned into something deeper, something close to fear. Charles had always shared personal matters with her. They had always discussed family things openly, but now he was shutting her out. So she began watching him more carefully. She started noticing patterns she hadn't seen before. One evening, during a quiet dinner with just the two of them, she decided to bring it up directly. She mentioned the document and asked about it in a calm voice. Charles looked at her for a long moment before saying that some things between a grandfather and his granddaughter required privacy. He didn't offer more. That single comment made her feel colder inside than she had in a long time. She knew now that he was building something important, and she was not part of it. The night before Charlotte's birthday, Charles stayed in his study for hours. She walked past the door several times, hoping to catch his attention. Through the crack under the door, she saw light. And once when the door opened slightly, she saw him bent over papers, writing slowly and carefully. He looked focused, determined, even serious. When she finally asked if he was all right, he smiled and said yes. But it wasn't the smile she was used to. It felt practiced and hollow. It didn't calm her at all. The next morning, Camilla woke early. She felt uneasy even before her feet touched the floor. She tried to eat breakfast, but the food sat untouched on her plate. Her aide noticed the change. Camilla barely spoke during the usual morning meeting. She looked distracted. She kept glancing at the clock, then at her phone, then at nothing at all. She walked into her dressing room, picked out one dress, then changed her mind. She tried another, then another. It was unlike her. She was usually so sure of her choices. Later that day, she called an old friend. Someone from before her royal life began. Her voice cracked slightly as she shared her thoughts, something she rarely did. She needed someone to understand. She needed to say out loud how strange everything felt, how deeply unsettled she had become. As she spoke, her hands moved nervously, and her eyes avoided the mirror. It was clear that something was not right. What troubled her even more were the small, recent changes in the palace. Staff members who once came to her with questions about the whale's children now seemed to skip over her. Tasks and decisions were going through other people. She wasn't sure when this had started, but now she noticed it everywhere. Camilla had always known her role was delicate. She had never tried to take Diana's place. She had only wanted to offer support in her own way, slowly earning trust and showing care. Over time, she had found her balance, but now that balance felt shaken. She was beginning to feel like an outsider again. As the birthday celebration grew closer, she told herself to stay calm. She had lived under public eyes for many years. She had learned to keep her emotions hidden behind polite smiles. But this time, her calm exterior felt thin and easily breakable. She could sense that something was about to change. She couldn't name it. She didn't have proof. But deep inside, she knew that King Charles had made decisions that might shift the whole family dynamic, and she had not been part of them. King Charles' message to Princess Charlotte. The morning sun shone brightly over Windsor Castle, bringing warmth to the special day. Inside the grand but peaceful halls, Princess Charlotte's birthday was being celebrated in a way that felt both personal and thoughtful. The royal family had gathered closely, not for a grand public event, but for a private celebration filled with love and care. Decorations around the room had been chosen to match Charlotte's interests. They were colorful and playful, showing a more personal side of royal life. Everything looked cheerful but simple, showing that the day was all about Charlotte and not the crown. King Charles arrived early, stepping inside with a steady pace. In his hand, he carefully carried a red leather box. It looked important and carried the royal cipher in gold. Inside the box was a sealed envelope, something prepared in advance with great care. The king looked around the room, smiling softly at the family, gathered for the event. Everyone seemed calm but eager, knowing that something special was about to happen. When the moment for gifts arrived, King Charles kindly asked for a moment alone with his granddaughter. Everyone stopped and listened as the king slowly bent down to Charlotte's level. It was rare to see the monarch kneel like this, but he did it gently, showing love and respect. The room grew still as the king began to speak. His voice was soft and full of emotion, his words spoken carefully and with deep feeling. He didn't just speak about her birthday, he spoke about Charlotte herself. He told her how proud he was of the person she was becoming. He noticed how she had a natural way of bringing people together. She could see the person inside, not just the title or the role. She looked at people with kindness and understanding, and her grandfather saw that clearly. Charlotte listened seriously, not saying anything, but paying attention to every word. King Charles continued, telling her how she represented more than just the next generation. To him, she was part of something more important. She could help heal the past and strengthen the future. He said all this with love. Everyone in the room could feel the depth of his words. Just as he finished speaking, he slowly opened the red leather box and showed Charlotte a delicate pendant inside. It was small and beautiful, with finely crafted initials connected in a gentle swirl of gold and silver. The initials belonged to members of their family from the past and present. The pendant was more than jewelry. It was a symbol of unity and connection. Those present could not help but admire such a gift. Then something unexpected occurred. King Charles reached for the sealed envelope and carefully unfolded an official document. As he began to speak again, his tone shifted slightly. He announced that he had created something new, the Princess Charlotte Foundation. It was a special charitable organization focused on helping children with their emotional well-being and supporting the idea of family unity. The causes were meaningful, carefully chosen to reflect both the legacy of Princess Diana and the modern goals of the royal family. The king explained that Prince William and Princess Catherine would guide this foundation for now. When the time was right, Charlotte would take over and lead it herself. He described this as a gift for the future, something to grow with her. The foundation would focus on love, healing, and emotional strength. It would work outside the usual royal charities and would always stay independent. The king made sure that the foundation would never change its mission, no matter what happened in the future. Then he looked at the entire family and shared a final message. He said clearly that the work of the foundation must remain free from influence or interference. William and Catherine would decide how and when Charlotte became involved. As he spoke these words, he looked directly at Queen Camilla. His voice remained calm, but the message was unmistakably firm. Every member of the family would need to respect the boundaries he had set. This part of his speech felt deeply important. He was gently but firmly drawing a line. Queen Camilla sat silently, clearly surprised. The weight of the king's words reached her in full. Everyone could see that this wasn't just a birthday speech, it was something more. King Charles was setting a path for the future. He was protecting Charlotte's space to grow and to find her own way without pressure. It was also clear that he wanted the family to stay focused on what truly mattered: love, care, and emotional connection. The celebration slowly continued after that, but the meaning of the king's message stayed with everyone. Princess Charlotte had not only received gifts that day, she had been given trust, responsibility, and a place in the heart of the family's future. Her birthday became more than just a moment of joy. It marked the beginning of something deeply personal and meaningful. As laughter and gentle conversation filled the room again, the feeling of closeness remained. The king's message had touched every heart in that room, shaping a new chapter in the royal family with calm strength and lasting love. Princess Charlotte, unique royal role. Princess Charlotte's birthday celebration was not just about a child growing older. It became the moment when King Charles made a very personal and important decision that would shape the family in a lasting way. He had carefully chosen this day to set clear boundaries within the royal family, especially concerning certain family responsibilities. It was his way of protecting not just the future of the monarchy, but also the people who lived inside it. He wanted everyone to understand his plan without confusion. As the family surrounded Charlotte with smiles and warm wishes, different reactions quietly started to show. Prince William stood beside his daughter, looking calmly satisfied. His eyes followed his father's words with quiet approval, as if he had long expected this change. Princess Kate, always thoughtful, listened carefully. She didn't speak right away, but stayed close to her daughter and husband, showing she accepted this change with understanding. Queen Camilla, however, kept a steady and formal look on her face, although a flicker of surprise moved through her expression. Her emotions shifted between uncertainty and reflection, as she tried to process what this change really meant for the royal family and for herself. The atmosphere had changed completely. It became a day when the king shared a personal vision that would affect not just his granddaughter, but everyone connected to the crown. What had begun as a joyful birthday celebration now became something much more significant. When King Charles finally finished speaking, he didn't just end with formal remarks. His voice carried a gentle tone. He spoke slowly and clearly, expressing his hope that this new step would help the family feel more emotionally connected. He explained how much he had come to value honesty, healing, and personal growth within the royal family. These feelings had grown stronger in him over the years, and now as king, he wanted these ideas to guide the future of the monarchy. As the party continued, Charlotte couldn't contain her joy for receiving a symbolic gift from her grandfather. It wasn't something ordinary. This gift was part of something much bigger, a new foundation created in her name. It wasn't just for celebrations or tradition. Through it, King Charles had decided to bring emotional health and personal growth into the heart of royal service. He had created a new path for the future, a way for younger royals to find their place, not only through tradition, but through their own personalities and abilities. This moment showed how deeply King Charles had changed his way of thinking. He no longer believed that protecting the monarchy meant only following old traditions. Instead, he believed that people inside the royal family needed to feel emotionally strong and healthy. He wanted to build something that supported them as individuals so they could serve the public with more honesty and strength. He understood that the royal family was made up of real people with real feelings, and he saw that those feelings needed care, just like royal duties needed attention. The foundation created for Princess Charlotte reflected this new idea. It gave her a chance to grow into her own strengths without being forced into roles that didn't suit her. She wouldn't have to become something she wasn't. Instead, her calm nature and natural kindness could be shaped into something meaningful and useful. She was the only one, so I think she carved her own role. Her emotional intelligence would be respected, not ignored. Charles hoped this would allow her to step into her future roles with confidence and peace. Others in the family slowly began to accept this new idea. Queen Camilla, after taking some time to understand everything, began offering her own thoughts. She had entered the royal family much later in life, and she knew how difficult it could be to balance personal feelings with public expectations. She started to see the wisdom behind the king's plan. She began speaking more openly during private discussions, showing that she not only understood the new vision, but could also help support it. Her new sense of ease showed that she, too, was growing more comfortable with the changing shape of her role. She no longer had to carry out duties the way they had always been done. She could now focus on what felt natural and useful, and this gave her a stronger sense of purpose. It also helped her connect more deeply with the king's children and grandchildren. Her presence became more grounded and helpful as the family moved toward a better way of living and working together. Charlotte's place in this new direction continued to grow. The decisions being made around her weren't meant to push her forward too fast. Everything was being handled gently, at a pace that respected her young age and personality. The foundation was not a burden, but a tool that would help her discover her own way. She was encouraged, little by little, to develop into someone who could truly support the people around her in the years to come. This role introduced a new kind of strength, one built not on rules alone, but on truth, honesty, and human connection. For King Charles, this moment marked something very personal. At this point in his life, he wasn't just thinking about duty and tradition. He was thinking about love and healing. He wanted to make sure that the people closest to him could move forward with fewer struggles and more understanding. His actions were filled with emotion. They reflected the way he wanted to be remembered, not just as a king, but as someone who truly cared about his family. The vision he shared that day changed the tone of the monarchy. Far from home, home in the British royal family, being seen by the public has always mattered. It is not just a habit or a tradition. It helps people know who the royals are and who will be part of the royal family in the future. Every time a royal steps out on a balcony, attends a big event, or appears at a national celebration, it adds to their public image. It reminds people that the monarchy is still there. Each appearance becomes a way of keeping the connection between the family and the people alive. That is why it became very noticeable when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle decided to raise their children, Archie and Lilibet, in a very different way. They chose to keep them mostly away from public view. The children were rarely shown in photographs and did not appear at royal events. This decision was not ignored. It made many people talk, not with anger, but with concern. Most people didn't know what Archie and Lilibet looked like, how they behaved, or what kind of life they were living. At the same time, their cousins, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, were being seen often. The public saw them during holiday services, on royal tours, and during national celebrations. People watched them grow. These children were becoming familiar. They were not just members of the royal family. They were beginning to represent the future. Every time they appeared, the public felt closer to them. Each event helped people believe that the royal family would keep going for years to come. This was not something that happened by accident. It was a careful plan. The royal family has always used public appearances to keep people interested. Showing the next generation helps people feel secure. They see that the crown will continue to be passed down. When George, Charlotte, and Louis show up regularly, it sends a strong message. It tells everyone that the next chapter of the monarchy is already here and growing up in front of them. But Archie and Lilibet seemed very far away. They were not shown much. They were not mentioned often. They were raised in a different world, far from royal palaces and duties. While royal life is usually full of tradition and public appearances, Harry and Meghan decided to do things their own way. They wanted to give their children a more peaceful and protected life. They spoke often about safety, about the importance of letting children grow up normally. By stepping away from royal life, they hoped to give Archie and Lilibet something different from what Harry had known. Not everyone inside the family agreed with this new approach. Some quietly wondered what it would mean for Archie and Lilibet's future place in the royal family. When Harry and Meghan started using the titles of Prince and Princess for their children, it caused strong reactions. Some questioned the need for titles if the children would not be part of public duties. Others believed that titles were still important, no matter where the children lived or how private their lives were. Still, concerns remained. In a world where being seen helps shape identity, it becomes harder for people to believe someone belongs if they are never shown. If Archie and Lilibet are not seen with their royal cousins, not heard speaking during events, not pictured at important moments, the public may begin to feel that they do not truly belong to the same family. Over time, even royal blood can seem far away. The more they are hidden, the more they may be forgotten. Their names may stay in royal records, but their faces and stories may fade. This growing distance does not end with the children. Over the years, the gap between Prince Harry and the rest of the royal family has grown deeper. What began as disagreements has turned into something more serious. Many people once hoped that time would fix everything. They believed that Harry might return to his old role, but now that hope feels weaker. The royal family has continued without him. Harry lives across the ocean, building a new life with Meghan and their children. He speaks often about his past, but the present shows something very different. King Charles, Prince William, and William's children are still seen regularly. They attend events, fulfill duties, and stay close to the heart of royal life. Harry appears separately, sometimes with Meghan, often away from any royal setting. Each year, the distance seems to grow larger. The idea of a reunion starts to feel like something that belongs in history, not in the future. As time goes on, Archie and Lilibet seem less and less connected to the world of the monarchy. Being born royal may not be enough. In the eyes of the public, being royal means being visible, being part of the story that is being told. If the royal family continues to shape its image through appearances, it becomes easier to forget those who are not seen. People remember what is in front of them. If Archie and Lilibet remain out of sight, their place in the royal story may slowly disappear. Their titles might remain, but their presence may not. The royal world moves forward steadily. It does not pause for anyone who chooses a different path. But those that really want to do it properly will forge ahead anyway, and many will get left behind, it seems to me. It continues with those who stand in the spotlight. Without being seen, without being part of the shared story, even close relatives can become strangers. For Harry and his children, that may be the most difficult reality. While they build a new life far away, the royal story goes on without them, building a future where their names are spoken less and less. Meanwhile, King Charles has his reason for wanting to draw closer to his grandchildren. Preparing for the inevitable, King Charles, now many years into his reign, moves more slowly than before. People who work closely with him have quietly noticed this change in his pace. His steps are more careful, and his movements show a difference that cannot be ignored. For most of his life, the king has kept a very busy schedule. He always took pride in staying active and focused on his royal duties. He used to attend many events, speak with people often, and travel regularly as part of his work. But now, those who watch closely have seen a clear change. The palace gives simple reasons for these changes. They say that his schedule is just being adjusted, and that royal duties naturally evolve over time. But people who work inside the palace every day know that something deeper is happening. Queen Camilla has been stepping in more often now. She attends many events on her own, ones the king would have attended before. The palace explains this as a natural sharing of responsibilities. But the frequency of these changes has made some people wonder, Camilla is not just filling in once in a while. She is doing this consistently. During a recent garden party at Buckingham Palace, guests noticed that the king sat down several times. In the past, he would have remained standing, walking from group to group, smiling and shaking hands without pause. This time, he rested often. He smiled kindly when guests showed concern, and he spoke in a friendly way, but something felt different. His private secretary stood nearby at all times, watching carefully, ready to help if anything went wrong. At the same time, the king's doctors have been seen more regularly at his residences. They do not make a big show of it, but staff members notice their presence. Even though the palace says these are just routine checkups, the timing and frequency make it clear that his health is being watched much more closely. Many tasks that once fell to the king have been passed on to younger royals. These changes are small when looked at one by one, but together they show a careful and respectful shift. Inside the royal household, this has brought a more serious and thoughtful mood. The king himself has become more reflective. At a private dinner held with trusted staff who have served him for many years, he spoke softly about how time feels different now. He shared thoughts that showed he is thinking more deeply about life and the future. His words carried the feeling of someone who understands that the days ahead may be fewer than the days behind. Those around him listened carefully, sensing the weight of what he was feeling. The royal calendar, once filled with daily commitments, now includes many open days. These are called administrative periods by the palace, but in truth, they are days set aside for rest and recovery. The king's doctors have advised him to slow down. As a result, long-standing traditions are being gently adjusted. Ceremonies that once lasted a full hour now end much sooner. Walks through crowds are shorter, and speeches have become more rare. Even with all these changes, King Charles continues to appear calm and strong in public. He follows royal protocol closely, never showing any weakness. His expressions are steady, and his tone is always confident. But those close to him know that there is more going on behind the scenes. The king is facing the truth of aging, and he is doing so while still carrying the heavy responsibility of leading the royal family. This takes a strength, and it is clear that he is trying to manage both his duties and his health as best as he can. The bond between King Charles and Queen Camilla has also changed in a meaningful way. She watches him more closely now, often stepping in before he even asks for help. At events, she guides him gently, keeping the pace manageable and shielding him from stressful situations. She is not only acting as a partner, but also as a protector. Those who observe them closely see how she cares for him more deeply than ever. Her actions are subtle, but they show a deep concern for his well-being. As time moves forward, the king has started looking back more often. Old photo albums have been placed on his desk. Letters from earlier days are being taken out of the royal archives at his request. He reads them carefully, remembering events and people from years ago. These actions suggest that he is thinking about his life in a more personal way. He is considering what he has done, what he has stood for, and how he wants to be remembered. This is a time of change at the palace, marked by wise choices and adjustments. The king is still performing his role, but he is doing so more slowly and carefully. Behind the scenes, there is a strong sense that he is preparing for what lies ahead. Those around him move with quiet respect, offering support as he continues to carry out his duties while also looking inward. This period in his reign is not loud or dramatic, but it is deeply meaningful. Every small shift and every careful decision reflects a man who knows the value of each moment and who wants to make them count. What do you think about King Charles's unexpected gift to Princess Charlotte? Let us know your views in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.